And I'll call to order the School Board of Finance meeting. Is there any public comments regarding agenda items?
No.
All right, and do the election of the Board of Finance officers. Do I have nomination for president? We have historically done that in the past,
Okay.
yes.
I'll nominate Darren Murch.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
And do we have any other nominations? Seeing none, all in favor? And then nomination for the secretary.
I'll nominate Lana.
All right, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, is there any other nominations? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, and then identify the district depositories and investments. And Michelle?
I've got a presentation here with some of the highlights of our finances. You all might remember back in May, we decided to invest our rainy day funds that was $885,000 into 2 CDs to earn some interest to help, improve the quality of the education for the students in the district and fund 2 new instructional aid positions. So on May 31, I went to Farmers and Mechanics where those funds were and deposited them into 2 separate CDs. And the interest received through the end of December was $13,668.87. We received in early January our check for the 4th quarter for $9,824.50. And the employer share of Social Security and the wages paid to those 2 new aides from August 1 through December 31 was $11,102.08. So those 2 CDs are fully funding those 2 new aid positions, and that was our hope. And so I think that was a really sound investment that we made. All right, Northwest Bank. In March of 23, Northwest kind of did some reorganization, and our main account there where we keep all of our funds that we operate daily with was changed to what's called a cash sweep interest account. The bank gets, obviously makes some money off of our account too, but they invest our funds. We have $1,400,000 that we keep in a fund that we do our day-to-day operations with. We pay our payroll, our electricity, all of our utilities. And then the rest of what money we have there is in a cash sweep account. The bank invests it. It is all, FDIC insured. There's no risk at all to the school for those investments, but it earns a much higher interest than what we were earning. As an example, in January of 23, our Northwest account earned $115.85. That's almost $4 million, and that's all the interest that we were earning every month. February, it was $102.94. When we moved it to the cash sweep account in March, we earned $2,280.56 in interest. It was a huge, huge jump. So the interest that our Northwest account earned in 2022 as a whole was $1,988.69. And in 23, we earned $38,386.98. Now I'll go into this a little better here. Jessica, what did I do? Oh, there we go. All right. Okay. Still not totally.
There you go.
All right. Sorry. I have the least expensive computer in the whole school. Mine's not touch screen. I don't know how this whole touch screen thing works. So I'll go into this, how the breakdown on this interest works a little more, because I have a recommendation for how I would like to see the interest broke down in 24. I'll cover that in a few minutes, but I just want to say that this is a really great, that account that Northwest is letting us use is a really great way for what money we have on hand at really no risk to us, for making our money work for us so that we have more money to put back in to educating our students. And that's really what we're here to do. All right, the construction fund. As most of you know, I was not here when this whole construction project started, but at the,
Me neither.
Dr. Van Ray was not here. Most of you probably, might not have been on the school board when this whole thing started. But $1.345 million of this whole construction fund was deposited into the Northwest account so that they could have funds to pay some bills when they needed to fairly quickly, instead of having to send, a request to the Bank of New York and Indy to have the funds sent from Bank of New York and Indy to the various vendors. So the balance currently in the construction fund at the Bank of New York and the amount that is still left at Northwest is $111,347.89. This is the wrong PowerPoint. That's an old one.
So I haven't touched the right one.
What Empire is currently requesting for the end is $132,685. So there's some back and forth going on with that. We'll have to see how that plays out. The Bank of New York is $23,240.67, and the Northwest amount is $88,107.22. So, yeah, there's one slide that's not in here. So the current account balances is of 12/31. Northwest Bank, we have $4,128,463.27. Of that, $3,740,356.05 is what I would call our general district fund, what we have for our day-to-day expenses. $300,000 of the amount held at Northwest is part of a rainy day fund. And $88,107.22 is the construction fund. Farmers and mechanics, we have rainy day CD1, which is $445,000. Rainy day CD2, which is $440,855.35. And then the rainy day checking account, which is $10,132.17. So these numbers have changed slightly since this slide was done, but each month, and I'm not sure when, how the decision was made, but this is how things were working when I started. Each month, the interest that we earn on our Northwest account had been deposited 80% to our general and then 20% to the construction fund. I'm making the recommendation that for 24, because of the accounts, the way that the money is divided there, that we do 85% to the education fund, 10% to rainy day, and then 5% to the construction fund, because I don't think the balance of construction fund money that we're holding at Northwest should, get 20% of the interest that we earn every month. And the interest on the farmers and mechanics rainy day CDs will continue to be deposited into the education fund to continue to fund those aid positions that we created. And I think that's everything I have.
You mind hitting a slide for me? But mine's on here after yours. Yeah. So as part of the financial meeting each year, we have to go through the Distressed Unit Appeal Board, which is the DUAB website, so you can find this online. But as you all know, ADM stands for Average Daily Membership, and that is how the state determines how much per student that we get. So you can see the last 10 years of the student count. And if you go back, the highest in the past 10 years was in the 14-15 school year, where we were at 878 students. The lowest that we hit at any point was the 2021 school year, 793. And I would say could be the case for a lot of schools, because right after COVID, a lot of students, even if schools offered virtual, they started choosing some other online options. But you can see in 22 and then 23, we stayed very steady. The spring of 22-23 was 805, and the fall of 23, which is not on there, was 805.52, which we do have partial students that are taking, part of the day. And if they're here for 4 classes, then we get 4/7 of the money that the state gives. You mind going to the next one, please, Michelle? So on here, you can see the fund balances. as of the end of each calendar year. And so if you look in 2019, that was when they changed the funding from the general fund and a few other funds into making it education and operation as the two main funds. So you can see some color changes there. But overall, if you look at the education fund, the operation fund, and the rainy day fund, those are all currently in good shape. I've brought that up several times since I've been here about where we're at financially. And so go ahead and go to the next one if you don't mind. Thanks. The annual deficit versus surplus. If you look in the past there, it has been a rare occurrence to have any operating deficit, although it did occur slightly in 2016. You can see that on there, 2019 and 2022, but it was hardly at all. So I think budget-wise, things are again in good shape for us. If you go to the next one, this one, as far as fund balances as a percent of operating expenditures, as you can see, what it points out on the website is it's important to maintain a cash balance. And all of you know this, that you want to have a cash balance on hand in case we get a delay in the payment from the government or something happens. So, and it has happened in the past where it's been delayed a few months. That has been very, very rare over the past 20 years. But like this December, our biannual check came about 2 weeks late, which we had a cash balance on hand, so paying all the payroll was not an issue, but that's why it's important to maintain that healthy cash balance. The next one, please, thank you, is revenue by type. And if you're looking at this, you know we have different funding streams, but you know the main one's going to be the state revenue, which is per student, but it also breaks it down into in that fund, there's like the CTE performance grants in there, the curricular materials rental fund is now in there, early intervention grants, even like the license plates are in there, which we got like $60. So awesome to those that are donating for it. So, and then the second biggest one is going to be the local tax revenue based on property taxes. So you can see that in there. But if you go to the next slide, just because we have to say it, we don't have a referendum. So you see that 0% of our total revenue is based off of the referendum or not having a referendum. So that's all those slides. Thank you, Michelle. That's all that I have for that.
And that's most of the review of all investments and financial reports. That's everything. Okay. All right. Well, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much. And on to our last meeting for the night.
Just a moment to open that next one.
Okay.
And